Welcome to Carry the Mat, where we pursue meaning in life, legacy, and leadership. Join us as we seek to learn some of life's most difficult yet valuable hard-earned lessons from men and women who have experienced obstacles and victories firsthand, striving to serve one another based on our unique, God-given abilities, not interested in merely talking about it, but determined to be about it. If that sounds like you, then let's carry the mat together. Every man dies, but not every man truly lives. Now to your hosts, Ben Brandenburg and Daniel Moss. This is Carry the Mat.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Carry the Mat podcast. I'm Daniel Moss here with my fellow host, Ben Brandenburg. Boy, do we have a good one for y'all today. We had the pleasure of sitting down with damn good dog Brandon Boykin. Brandon Boykin had a stellar career at UGA playing defensive back for the University of Georgia. Also, quite the punt return and kick return specialist, running a blazing 4.440. And he continued that career after advancing to the National Football League, where he spent the majority of his career as an anchor on the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles. Brandon, we are so pumped to have you sit down with us today, man. It means a lot to us. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to my co-host, Ben, who has known you much longer than I have. I think y'all have probably known each other back since your early days as a freshman walking North Campus, 2009 maybe. But yeah, we'll go from there. And man, just thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, Brandon's credentials on the field speak for themselves, but I've gotten a chance to know him off the field, and he really has the ability to impact those around him, and he's such a hard worker. And I've just learned a lot from watching him over the years, and I'm lucky to call him a friend now. We work together up at Georgia, and yeah, I think we've got a lot of ground to cover today, but we're excited to have you here, Brandon. And why don't you give us a quick update on you and what life is like right now, on your family, and a quick rundown on life and what you're up to right now.
Yeah, man. First off, appreciate y'all having me on, man. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be a guest. BB, you're my guy, and I'm up in Athens a lot now because I'm kind of back and forth with the Bulldog Club. You asked what's going on, so I'll just kind of dive into it. I'm kind of back and forth with the Bulldog Club, and then working in football a little bit with Kirby, doing events and stuff. And so that's been awesome, man. Being able to kind of come back to Athens. Life wise, I'm completely finished playing. I finished probably it'd be close to 4 years now, which time flies. But I'm back here in Atlanta, the Atlanta area, Fayette County, where I kind of grew up, and me and my family are settled here. So it's been cool, man. When you're young and you say like, I'm never coming back to a certain place, and like I left Georgia, I got drafted to the Eagles, and then I played everywhere, and I went to LA. And I used to say, like, I'm never coming back. And like, here I am, like, back where I grew up. It's funny how life comes full circle. But, man, tremendous blessing just to be back and have my family around. So life is good, man. Cannot complain.
So Brandon's a guy that after his playing days really let himself go. He really just got out of shape, stopped working out, got lazy. Just kidding. This guy is absolutely shredded and has never missed a workout a day in his life. But that's just one of the many ways I feel like we're connected, Brandon. It's BB. I know we got the same nickname, number 2. Both played DB, so there's a lot of common ground that we have. I can't dunk like you. One thing we did run across when we were researching you is looking up your highlights was a dunk contest from back in the day, and you were absolutely throwing it down. And I feel like a lot of the best dunkers are guys that aren't the tallest guys.
It's just a lot of that compact and springy.
Getting up and throwing it down. Vince Carter to me is the best dunker of all time. I don't think he's that tall, but.
But the dude is tall though. I saw him like 3 weeks ago. He's every bit of like 6'7", which is crazy because he looks like 6 feet on the court. But
us three are like 5'10", so
I'm 5'7", so
yeah.
So Bam, take us through growing up in Fayette County and just your high school ball. Your high school coach, I got a chance to get to know him in my recruiting role at Georgia. And I don't know if there's been a coach that oozed more about a player
Oh yeah.
than your coach did about you. So why don't you just give us a little rundown on growing up in Fayette County and also high school ball?
Well, going back to high school, he probably talked me up because me and like one other dude are the only, prospects that ever come out of this place ever. So he probably didn't have much ever else to talk about. But in terms of growing up here in the Atlanta area, I played everything like every single sport, and so my first love was baseball. And I was for certain like thought I was gonna go to the MLB. This is like the '90s, and Ken Griffey is like king, and I wanted to be Ken Griffey wearing number 24. I had his cleats. I had the backwards hat and all of that type of stuff. And so baseball was like king for me. And I didn't really start playing football until I was like 10. But I played running back. And so my favorite player on the football field was Barry Sanders. And so I wanted to be Barry on the field and Ken Griffey when I was, playing baseball. And so I always kind of had people I wanted to mimic my game after. And I feel like for football, Barry was like a smaller, compact dude, shifty. And so running back just came natural to me. And then being a kid in Atlanta, in comes Michael Vick, like right in 2022, 21. And so I think I'm in like sixth or seventh grade, and I was just like enamored with how he just kind of transformed the city because the Falcons were awful. They've always been awful up until my whole life, all of our whole lives. And so, seeing Vic, like I wanted to play quarterback then, and I think that's probably when I started taking football a little bit more serious. Um, because that was like around ninth grade, and then I played varsity in ninth grade. I shouldn't have been playing varsity. I shouldn't have been playing quarterback. I couldn't throw the ball at all. I was just athletic, and we ran the option, and so between basketball, football, and baseball, those were kind of my three things, and I kind of had to choose which ones I wanted to move forward with. And my parents have spent a ton of time taking me around Atlanta and the nation to basketball tournaments. So I had to drop my Ken Griffey dreams, and so I stayed with basketball and football. Hence the dunk video that you saw. It was very explosive, but I couldn't shoot. And then on the court, on the field, I couldn't throw. So I had to, I had to work with what I had, which was my quickness and my explosiveness. So yeah, man.
So yeah, out athleting people.
Yeah, out athlete people, exactly, 1,000%.
So me and Daniel grew up playing church basketball together. So Daniel's seen me play church basketball, and I think I led the league in steals and missed layups.
And broken noses.
Yeah. So I mean, just being a DB, just sitting back and taking it coast to coast. But I had a little trouble stopping and putting on the brakes.
Steals and missed layups. That's a great correlation.
Well, you seem like the type of guy that is going to be good at whatever he tries. Golf, for instance. I know you play a little bit of golf. Tell us about how you approach that game and how you do on the links.
I've had to work extremely hard, and I think that's the beauty of it. Like, I think that's why I love it so much, right? Is like, obviously you're done with your sport that you've dedicated your whole life to, but you still got that competitiveness in you and that competitive juice. And so you want to kind of perfect something that is not attainable. Like, you can never perfect the game of golf. And that's why I love it, right? Like, I think that's why we all love it. And so I'd probably say in the last 4 years, 3 to 4 years, I've like taken it seriously. And I think probably everybody will say like their biggest regret about that is just not starting earlier, not being able to play that game earlier. But then again, it's also like golf is expensive and it takes a ton of resources, right, to be good at it or to have somebody introduce you to it as a kid. And so the people that are good at it and like are on tours or whatever they're doing, making money from it, like they had somebody that introduced them to the game early and they had the resources to do that. And I would say my parents probably would have, But I think at this point in my life, I think maybe that's a passion of mine. Maybe moving forward is to like introduce people to the game of golf that maybe would love it, and not that they just don't have the resources to do so. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I tell you, golf's a great game. My wife Elizabeth and I, that's kind of something we've bonded over. When the weather's right, we'll go out and play. Mind you, I know I am from Augusta, but don't get it twisted. I'm not good at
People
golf.
just assume you're good at golf when you're from Augusta.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but no, I can assure you I'm not. If I get around the course, bogeying, double bogeying, maybe a triple here and there, like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty cocky about it.
Hey, that's better than like 90% of the people in the world.
But it's something we enjoy doing together. But I think the thing with golf that's so crazy is it's such a mental game. Like, you're not worried about the man or the woman in front of you. Like, it is you and only you, and so that makes it tricky, man.
Absolutely.
Like it gets hard.
Yeah, I honestly think like it kind of puts it in perspective of every sport though. Like if you play golf and you're old enough to understand like how mental the game is, that translates to everything. Because even on the field, man, it's just you. It really is just you. Like, and I think for me and my mindset, and I probably can correlate it to more like returning kicks and punts, right? Like you got to be crazy enough to be okay that somebody might time it up perfectly and smack you, and you may get hurt. But if you do catch it and they don't hit, like if the first person doesn't hit you, most times you're gonna get about 10, 15, 20 yards. And so like it's all mental, man. And I think um I think after probably my second year in the league, and I know I'm probably jumping around, but like the mental part of the game is something I tried to focus on a little bit more than the physical part. Like you said, as you always try to out athlete people as a young teenager, and then you get to a place even at Georgia where everybody is just as good athletically and physically. And then that mental part is the biggest part, where if you have enough emotional maturity to understand it, like it'll take off for you. And you see the guys that can come in early and be successful. And I think a lot of that is just the mentality.
Well, you always had good instincts on the field and also off the field. But coming up in Fayette County, obviously playing quarterback, you mentioned. Talk to us a little bit about the transition from high school ball to college. High school ball being a cut above everybody, and then getting to where there's a little bit more of an even playing field. I want to say you were another number when you got to Georgia. Were you number 20?
Yeah. In my freshman year, I wore number 20.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, take us through that, just grinding as a freshman and that transition from high school ball to college ball and what that was like. And, were you fish out of water, or how that transition was for you?
Well, yeah, kind of like I told you guys. I mean, I was being honest when I told you that like there weren't a lot of people from my school or my county that like made it to, top Division I level football. And so it was kind of an anomaly. I had me and another one of my best friend. His name is Matt Daniels. He had offers everywhere. He decided to go to Duke to play football. But that's a whole nother story. But now he's a head special teams coach for the Minnesota Vikings. So it was just me and him, right? And we kind of carried the team. And so I think for me as a 15, 16, 17-year-old, I just always had like this supreme confidence that I was going to be the best player on the field, no matter who it was. Like, no matter who's on the field, I'm better than everybody. And I think that mentality is kind of just something I maybe kind of was groomed with just through coming through Atlanta, kind of. Because I mean, we in my region here, it was, we had Cam Newton the year before me and Eric Berry, and like we got some ballers here. And so it's like you either it's barbecue or mildew. There's no time for anything else. And so my mindset was always that, like, I'm the best and I'm gonna go out here and prove it. And I had to, because we didn't have the exposure of like these other schools, because we didn't have anyone before me that was doing it. And so I think me and Matt kind of carved that path. And then, like you said, getting recruited, I started getting recruited as a defensive back, even though I was playing quarterback and safety. And my first offer was Ole Miss. And I'll never forget, like, Ed Orgeron was the head coach at the time. And he called Yeah, I had never like I never heard from them, not never talked to him. He just like called me one random night. Actually called my mom's phone and was like, "Hey Brandon, how would you like to be an All American here at Ole Miss?"
Brandon's like, is this a prank call?
I know, and I'm like,
He's the
okay,
leader in
cool.
the
You know, like
clubhouse.
Ole Miss, never considered it, but it's my only offer right now. So I was like, I was ready to commit. You know, I'm like, I'm ready to commit. And so my brother is like 5 years older than me, and he played professional basketball in Europe, and he was kind of like helping me throughout the process because he got recruited in basketball, right? He's like, no, like you're not gonna commit yet. Next offer was like Georgia Tech. I had a guy brother named Tashard Choice that played running back at Georgia Tech, and I'm always on their campus. So Georgia Tech offers you know how kind of as a prospect when one school offers you, it kind of just like starts rolling in, right? And so I started getting offers: Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Duke, everybody. And my brother was kind of in my ear. This was my junior year. He was just saying like just wait, just kind of wait. You're just you just turned a junior. Don't rush the process. And I hadn't heard from Georgia yet, right? And so it's funny that you talked about that dunk contest video because I sent Willie Martinez and Coach Rick my highlight tape, and it didn't have any defensive clips on it. All it had was like quarterback stuff and that dunk contest that that you guys were talking about. And so so my dad sent the highlight tape off to Georgia with quarterback highlights and a dunk contest, and then a week later they sent me back in the mail an official offer. I out athleted everybody enough to get to get there, I guess.
Well, the best athletes in high school always are touching the ball.
Right.
Yourself, for example, but you look at any of the greats, whether they're DB or quarterback like Vic or Allen Iverson comes to mind, a guy that was balling in high school. But
Exactly.
those guys, if they're not scoring touchdowns, you got to be asking yourself why and why they're not touching the ball. I mean, there's certain places, certain programs where you can afford to play a guy at corner, but like at a big school like a Hoover or Norcross. But generally speaking, I mean, those athletes, the coach is going to put the ball in the best athlete's hands.
Yeah.
And you're a great example of that. At Georgia, I mean, it speaks to your versatility. I mean, Paul Hornung Award winner, most versatile player in the nation. And you obviously get some touches. I mean, I know, thinking back about you getting in Coach Bobo's ear, talk a little bit about that and what it was like trying to get touches on offense.
No, I had to beg him. I begged him for 3 years, right? Like the only reason I actually started returning kicks was because Richard Samuel, who was our running back one year, he got a concussion, right? And so they threw me back there in practice, and they were like, "All right, we'll give him a chance." And so this was like in camp. The next week was the game, and so they just threw me back there, and like my first one ever, I returned for 100 yards, and and the rest was history. So I guess that was meant to be, but it wasn't like they were looking at me to have the ball in my hands, right? And so uh, I had to beg Bobo to get there, and then yeah, I was gonna leave after my junior year, and Coach Rick, me and him, had a conversation, and ultimately we decided it was best for me to come back. And I told him like, look, Coach, while I'm coming back, man, I want to have the ball in my hands a little bit
So when
more.
you say leave, is
And
that like leaving for the NFL draft or
yeah.
transferring to another school?
No, I was gonna leave and go to the NFL draft, which uh, I'm glad I didn't do that, and I think God kind of orchestrated that because I had prepared like this speech in my mind that I was gonna say to Coach Rick, and like the season's over. We lost the bowl game, but I won like defensive player of the game that year or something. And so I'm like, my stock's high. I'm gonna leave, and I called Coach Rick and told him all this, and I was expecting him to say okay, or something, but he just like was silent and was like, I think you should reconsider this, son, and call me back.
He's so patient and puts it back on you.
Right. And
Why don't you pray about this, Brandon?
it's right. That's exactly what he said, and it shook me up, man. And like I wasn't expecting to hear that. And then that same night, like a blizzard came to Georgia. It had never like snow, so we got snowed into Athens. So I was stuck there for like 3 days and just thought about it, and obviously ended up being like the absolute best decision I could have ever made. But it's crazy how that happened.
Yeah, man, that's definitely somebody knocking at your door trying to tell you something.
Yeah, no question.
I do remember that, you getting in Coach Bobo's ear about touches. And I was coming around. I was getting my foot in the door, but I was mostly working with the D-line. I was over there with Kwame, D'Angelo, Avery, B. Wood. Dobbs was always cutting up. And, I fit right in with those guys. I know it looks like I played D-line and all, but, yeah, I love those guys and miss them.
Yeah, man.
So what was it like getting to Georgia? I mean, you get out there and you're lining up next to a guy, number 8, pedestrian, wide receiver, what was it like lining up against AJ Green?
It was probably the best thing I could ever ask for as a defensive back. To have somebody that's gonna probably end up in the Hall of Fame right at this time. Well, now, but like the best college receiver in the nation, in my class, somebody I get to go up against every single day. And man, we had battles, and I'd be lying if I said like I got even 50. It was even 50-50. Like he was eating me up. AJ was eating me up like probably every day. My freshman, maybe sophomore year, just because he's AJ, right? He's got like 40-inch vertical. He's 6'4". He catch radius is crazy. He's fast, and so I think from a confidence level, it was like if I can guard AJ, like who else is gonna get past me? Who else is gonna beat me?
Well, you talk about just going against the best in practice and walking on the field with that supreme confidence that you're going to win every rep, and going against a guy like AJ in practice. Yeah. I mean, him coming out, he was arguably the best receiver in college. I mean, I know him and Julio came out at the same time, but just absolute stud.
No doubt. I mean, when you spend your days at practice getting reps in against a guy like AJ, and then it's game time on Saturday or Sunday later in life, you kind of look across the field and you're like, well, I've practiced against this guy, so what has this guy got for me? I mean, the level of confidence is just totally solidified at that point.
No doubt.
Yeah, no. So I mean, that was a tremendous blessing having him, and AJ is like the type of dude. He doesn't say anything. He just comes to work, and like DBs, nobody really. It was a couple guys, me and Prince Miller, but nobody really wants to go up against AJ because they don't want to be on film getting embarrassed, and then you got to go to position meetings, right, and see it. And so me and Prince are just like, hey, we'll take every rep. So we do one-on-ones every day, Ben, you know that. And so it's like I got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 reps against AJ every single day in one-on-ones, looking at every route. And my like I said, the confidence level you get when you go against somebody like that is just on another level, man. And so I absolutely could attribute, some of the success on the field and just the mental, capacity to be next play and not worry about it to going up against guys like him. And then I'll say like Muhammad Massaquoi, right? Like Tavares King. There's a lot of guys that came in that class that we had a lot of good dudes that I honestly believe we had the same talent or close to what they have now. And we probably could have been able to compete for championships as well if we had these same set of rules, maybe playoffs and allowed a couple more teams to be able to play. But we were talented.
Yeah, man. I mean, over the last few years, I mean, we've had our fair share of Georgia teams. Yeah, we might have lost a couple of games, but by the end of the year, everything seemed to gel with the team, and I can promise you nobody wanted to play them.
One of my favorite awards they do at Georgia is the Leon Farmer Award, but that just speaks to the way you approach the weight room and work. Hard work pays off in there. But talk a little bit about that award and what that means to you.
That's what's so cool is like the Leon Farmer Strength and Conditioning Award goes to the not necessarily even just the strongest, but like your team leader, your person that kind of gives you that example of that strength and that resilience and that all of that kind of encompassed in one. And so for me to win that and your name goes on the trophy that's always in the weight room, that's cool. That's probably like one of my biggest accomplishments at Georgia, because like I wasn't always a weight room warrior. I wasn't always muscular and strong. I came in scrawny, like 155 pounds, and like quickly realized like my speed is not enough. Like I gotta figure this out. And so to go from there in 08 to finishing in 11 and being the recipient of that award and team captain and being probably pound for pound one of the strongest dudes on the team, like that's the development that you want, right? Physically, but it also kind of shows the development mentally and emotionally to kind of have that leadership quality and do the things necessary to see the transition and to see yourself move from year to year and get better and stronger, physically and mentally, to where like you're a team captain. People, actually care about what you say. Like that award means more than just the weight room, right?
No doubt, man. Yeah, leadership is definitely earned. But now that you mention that, I mean, you're 5'10", 5'11", relatively it's a average size guy. I mean, that's how tall I am. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what it's like when you're lined up against a guy that might be 6'3", 6'4", super long? Like, how do you get in and maintain that coverage with a guy that's got that kind of length advantage over you?
God blessed me with a tremendous ability to jump, and I'll say that that helped a lot. But even for smaller dudes going up against bigger dudes, I think taller guy, like what I've realized is like taller receivers don't like for smaller dudes to be up in them, physical with them. You know what I'm saying? Because you're in their chest area where they need to move and maneuver. And so I think kind of just understanding when and when not to do it. And then just fundamentals, right? Like you're not going to always out jump a taller dude, but you can always be in position and in phase. And so the things could just control the things that you can. And I think um, I'd say the best coach I ever had was Willie Martinez. He really prepared me for games like nobody else until I got to the NFL. And then I'd say it was Todd Bowles, but they both kind of had this same mindset that like everybody is a nameless gray face. Like don't give anybody any more credit than the next guy, right? Like it's all about what you're doing and your fundamentals. And so I remember like we were going against team. Des Bryant was like my first game starting, and he was just he was just like, this dude he's gonna do this, he's not gonna do this. All you got to do is X, Y, Z. Like he just made him seem so pedestrian, right? and so I'm like, okay. And I got to the game and held him to like one catch, and we won the game. His mindset is everybody has a skill set, right? And so you got to kind of figure out what yours is, because you were on scholarship too, right? Like don't give anybody more credit than they deserve, and we both put our pads on the same way. So I really appreciated that and how he kind of groomed my game for sure.
Yeah, Daniel's a big Cowboys fan, so I'm sure he's watching it back in the day, thinking about who's this rookie guy shutting down Dez. I don't know if fantasy was big back in the day.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, well.
Thanks a lot, Brandon.
So that conversation with Coach Rick, that got my attention. So take us back to that period when you're weighing the pros and cons and really transitioning from college ball to the pros. But that transition period is a lot of meetings, a lot of grinding, working out. But the casual listener here won't know the details that go into that. So if you could just take us back to that that time period, and where your head was at going through that process.
Oh man, that's a whole like life chapter in itself, right? Because kind of having this steady elevation of success at University of Georgia, and like obviously everybody's goal is to get drafted and go to the combine. Well, go to the combine first and kill it and do amazing things, and then get drafted. And for me, like I talked about, that Outback Bowl was my last game, and so my whole mindset going into there was just to leave it all on the field, try to do as much as I possibly can to help my team win. Had a tremendous game, right? And so, like, obviously, draft stock like was through the roof. And so I was probably at that time thinking I was gonna go like 20th, 25. Going through the draft process after that, I play in the Senior Bowl, and I broke my leg in the game, right? And so this is like a month before the draft, and so this is like probably 2 months before the draft. So I break my leg in this All-Star game that you know I whether I played in it or not wouldn't have changed things, but that that same day I remember telling my mom like I just don't feel right, like something something telling me I shouldn't play. And then my mom and my agent were like, just play the first half and then you can be done. And the last play of the first half, I break my leg. And so man, that was a difficult time because I had waited 4 years to go to the combine and I had to just sit and watch it. I had waited 4 years to have my own pro day after watching every other class go through, and I had to sit there and watch it and pray to God that like my draft stock would still be where it was, right? And so, I did all of that type of stuff, and draft day comes, and I remember this coach I was training with, who was a former Jets coach. He calls me the day of the draft, and he tells me, I just want to let you know, like some teams are worried that like your ankle it was really like the bone right above my ankle, so I guess that's still considered your leg. But they were like he said that they were worried that it wasn't healing right, so you may fall a little bit in the draft. This was on the draft, the first day of the draft. I'm like, no, why would you tell me? Like, why would you call me the day of the draft and tell me this? So anyway, I'm like, whatever. So I got all these people at my house for the first round because everybody been telling me like I'm gonna go 20, like in the 20s, and so first day passes, I didn't get picked first round. The next day, second, third round, everybody comes back because they're like, surely you'll get picked that day. Didn't get drafted, and then that was like a crazy day for me, realizing like, wow, like in the span of 2 months, just everything I worked for in the last 4 years has just kind of went south. So, long story short, fourth day, I mean the last day, early in that day, the Eagles called and picked me in the early fourth round, and I it felt like I was the first pick. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it didn't matter when I got drafted, just to hear your name and the relief, it's over. And so I was the only people that were at my house at that time. The party had left and all the coolness had faded away. So it was me and my mom, my dad, my brother, and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And so I think that day it was special because those were the people that really mattered in any way, right? And so um, I cherish that moment, like being able to celebrate my name being called just with those four people. Um, and so that whole process put in perspective for me just how everything doesn't necessarily go according to plan, but it goes according to uh, how God wants things to be aligned for a purpose. And so, me being in Philly was probably I'd say that's my second home. Like I've done so much in that place, and I love it. And so, like none of that would have happened. I guess it all had to happen that way for me to be there and be impactful in Philadelphia. And so, my faith really was rooted in that moment for sure.
Yeah, man, that's just got to be like such a crazy situation. I mean, you come out of Georgia, you get drafted by a historically great franchise in the Philadelphia Eagles, and for the folks that might not know or watch football closely, Brandon was drafted, and then in his second year in the NFL, he had 6 interceptions and was tied for second in the NFL in that category. I mean, that's crazy. So kudos to you, man. And just how does that make you feel? Like, how did that feel coming off such a good year, only in your second year?
Yeah, I think I was still just kind of angry, right? Like I had, I think I had this chip on my shoulder.
You had a chip, not that you needed a chip.
Yeah,
Absolute savage, by the way.
yeah, I had a chip on my shoulder for sure. I was angry. I actually had made this list of every corner that got drafted ahead of me and I put it above my bed.
You're
And
not bitter at all, are you?
not bitter at all, not bitter at all. So that motivated me to have success in that second year. But no, just being in Philly, man, it was like, Andy Reid was the coach there at the time, and a guy that I idolized, Vic, was the quarterback there, and we had like it was a dream team almost. So for me to be in that situation and kind of like be locker mates with people that I've seen my whole life, it was cooler than just making it to the league, right? It was like you get to play with people that you idolize, that you grew up in, and so um, outside of that, just being impactful in the community there in Philly. Like I had this campaign called Do the 22 because I was number 22, and it encouraged kids to read for at least 22 minutes a day, right? Like, kids don't have the biggest, attention span. And so we went like from schools and, all across the southeast of Pennsylvania, like doing this campaign. And that was such an awesome moment and such a cool time because I saw the impact that it had, right? Like the literacy level for kids is bad in Philly. And so them kind of taking that reading part and putting it together with, an actual NFL player or Philadelphia Eagle and kind of making it make sense to them. That gave me real purpose off the field. And I felt passionate about that.
Yeah, we want to get Malcolm on here to talk about what he's doing with kids and reading. And, my wife being a first grade teacher is something that's near and dear to our hearts as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you talked about overcoming some adversity, breaking your leg, but I want you to talk a little bit about when you got to camp, just that initial shock factor and, anxiety of just making the 53-man, of, not wanting to be dropped down to the practice squad. And, nobody wants to get a call from the GM during camp. And talk about what it was like getting to camp. And, you talked about getting to Georgia and how it was, and you were going against guys that were better than so obviously than you saw in high school. That's definitely true in the league too. So talk a little bit about what it was like in practice and going up against guys every day that are elite.
Yeah, I'd be lying to you if I said I had anxiety because I think I was so oblivious to like the real business of it at early on that like there was never a thought in my mind like that I wasn't gonna make the team, or like be on the 53. But contrary to that, like I'll say there was a guy that was the nickel corner there. He was there for like 9 years, right? And I won't say his name, but so I come in as a rookie and everybody's like making these headlines about, the rookie coming in and this guy's been there for 9 years. Long story short, they end up cutting him for me. And that's when I was like, whoa, like, okay. Like I'm number one, I'm starting day one. I need to get ready. And then number two, like this dude's been here for 10 years and he's gone. Like he was my locker mate and I see him every day and now he's gone. And so I think the anxiety started when it was real for me was when I was a starter. Like Andy Reid brought me in and he was like, all right, like we cut Ocilio and you're the guy. So you need to be ready because like I think I was guarding Victor Cruz week 1 and then week 2, right. Week 1 it was Victor Cruz, week 2 it was Larry Fitzgerald. So it was like you got to get ready. So that's when the anxiety hit me. And again, the person that helped groom me for that was Todd Bowles. He was just like Willie Martinez in terms of like, dude, these dudes are no better than you. Like learn what to do and go out there and play free. And he gave me that ability to do that. And so that it was great. Like my rookie year was a struggle in terms of like I gave up a good amount of passes and maybe a couple touchdowns, but like it helped set the precedence for that year too. Because like year 2 is everything slows down and kind of got your feet under you. But no, for sure, like the first 5 weeks were very grueling because I was guarding like not just regular receivers. These dudes were like top in the league.
Yeah, I mean, in my book, Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, he's one of the greatest ever play. I mean, he's up there with GOAT status. You can argue it all day, but like
no question about
his catch radius and his length and just the way that he would go after and just high point the ball is unlike anything else.
And that's what I tell everybody. It's like they were like, "Who's the hardest, receiver you ever guard?" And I say Larry Fitzgerald, and it's not because like he's not fast, he's not the quickest, but like he knows how to position his body around you to make every catch, and it gets so frustrating because like you're right there every time, and he knows how to just get his body in position to shield you. So
his hands are like a damn magnet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who were some guys that kind of looked after you once you got into camp, and maybe also guys that you looked after once you were kind of seen as a year 2, year 3 guy? Who were some guys that came after you that you tried to look after, and just leading by example, but just everybody taking care of their own?
Well, yeah, I mean, You mean like at University of Georgia?
I guess both. Just thinking about somebody that pushed you both as a player and a person.
Yeah, I think coming into University of Georgia, there were a couple guys, and they weren't necessarily defensive guys. Like I said, Muhammad Massaquoi has always been like a very high character dude, and I talk to him every week now. We do stuff together up in Atlanta, so um, he was somebody that kind of understood the transition of becoming a college player at Georgia, right? Like the demands of school, and then the anxiety of trying to compete every single day to get on the field, and so he was critical. Guys in our DB room like Brian Evans. I think Brian was there for like 7 years. He redshirted and found a way to stay eligible like 7 years. So he was like a super vet. Um, we had Prince Miller. Me and Prince like had like a little brother big brother relationship, but it was all love in the end. And so I think that's critical. Like even for today's success, right? Like no team is having success without these young dudes that are playing a lot, feeling comfortable and having the mental awareness and the confidence that they can go out there and do it. And so um, I did have those guys, but more so for me, it was my family. If I'm being honest, like a big part of me going to Georgia was because I wanted my family to be able to see me play every week, and they were pretty close in proximity. So mom, dad, brother, like they all were here every game. And so I felt like, even if I didn't have a ton of friends on the team or whatever you would want to say, even in the NFL, like as long as I had that foundation of people in my corner, I would be cool. And so it's such a drastic contrast in the league. Like people don't hang out in the NFL, right? Like they've got families. You got 35-year-old dudes, that you're competing with for a job. And so I think me kind of being that for my teammates as I grew at Georgia helped me have, I guess the ability to not need it when I got to the league. But one person that did help me for sure when I was in Philly was D'Amico Ryans, like who's now the Texans head coach. Like
Wow,
he
Todd
he
Bowles, Andy Reid, D'Amico Ryans, all head
yeah,
guys. You mentioned Momass, love Momass. So really high character guys, and that speaks to your
no
character as
question.
well. But wise men seek wise counsel, and that's you.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so specifically because we played for like Coach Rick, right? And so so that's such a different like experience than maybe Kirby or like I couldn't really talk on any other school, but like Coach Rick is so like it's black and white, and it's like this is right, this is wrong, like this is the straight and narrow, and it's bigger than football. And so like you kind of get used to like that, not necessarily father figure, but like somebody that's gonna set parameters and they're not gonna go past a certain point. Like I never really heard Coach Rick yell too often. You know what I'm saying? And then you go to the NFL and it's like it's like a whole different ballgame. And that, right? Like you're okay with that, but it's like to see it and how a coach may dog cuss a player and then the player dog cuss him back, like get in his face. Right, like we're dealing with grown men, and then you got some coaches that played with some of the players, and so it was just like, man, like where, like how do I fit into this dynamic? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I want to become a friend to this dude, and then, or do I want to just keep it coach player, or like do I need to act a little bit more matured for them to not make me feel like I'm a rookie or a child. It's a lot to kind of digest, but I think the thing that kind of neutralizes all of that is just your play on the field, right? Like that, nobody's gonna babysit you, and when you get on the field, like that's where you earn your respect, and you can kind of navigate your relationships after that. But I'm saying that in a roundabout way to say there are some crazy dynamics and there's some crazy things I've seen in the league. And even with me, like I had a coach I absolutely did not like in the league, and I went public to ESPN, and like it was a national story and it got like blown out of proportion. But hey, I said what I meant and felt at the time, and I don't really regret it, honestly. And that coach was Chip Kelly, and he came in from Oregon. He came
Bro,
in
I'd
from
forgotten
Oregon.
about that.
Yeah, dude, don't. I get it. I'm not a big Chip fan either.
Hey, we're gonna have to dig out some old articles about this. I almost forgotten about
Yeah,
that, but now that you bring
yeah.
it up,
Chip
I
came
do
in from
recall.
Oregon.
But those NFL coaches, they've got the ultimate leverage because they start dipping into your pocketbook a little bit, messing with the money.
Yeah,
Yeah, and at that point, it's like they're putting their hands in the pot that's in your house. Like, I mean, that's yours.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. We had this thing in Philly where like we were the Philly, like we were the Eagles, and so defensively you couldn't wear sleeves out. Like you couldn't wear long sleeves in the game. It didn't matter how cold it was. If you wanted to wear sleeves, it was like 10K to wear sleeves. You had to put you had to put the money in like a player pot. And so we were in Green Bay one game, and I'm cold as hell. Like I'm so cold. It's like -8, but I don't want to pay to wear sleeves, so I'm out there with no sleeves, right? And so um it got like negative. I think it got like -10, and I always hated playing in the cold, but I think that was a game that conquered it for me. But it was all because I didn't want to pay.
That's culture.
Nah, that's not culture, Brandon. You're crazy as hell.
Man, you think
That's the
about some of the
culture, man.
great
Yeah.
defenses. You think about the groundwork you guys laid in Philly. You think about the Ravens, the Steelers, just some good tradition there. But a lot of it is social culture. Georgia's got that right now going on. But, I mean, thinking about how you transitioned to the Steelers after Philly was unique. I mean, the fact that it was in the same state, that's not something I've thought a lot about. But talk a little bit about that transition and what it was like
Yeah,
going
yeah,
from Philly to Pittsburgh.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I wasn't excited. I wasn't excited to go to Pittsburgh, because I got traded there like the first day of camp essentially. And like I had told you, I had like established so much at that point. It was basically like year 4. I had established so much in Philly at that point that I was like, mad. Like I didn't want to leave, and so that's the business of football. So like, because I was in state, I actually drove to Pittsburgh. I drove to Pittsburgh the next day, and when I got there, I had to practice in full pads. Like I'll never forget it. It was a it was a hard transition in that year specifically. But the culture in Pittsburgh was a lot different than Philly because they were used to like winning. They were used to like they had this historic culture of like winning, and so they didn't necessarily panic when they were losing, which was completely different than Philly. Like we we could lose one game and we were hearing boos and we suck, and then we ended up winning the game, and then everybody's happy in Philly. Like it's Philly is so extreme, and and Pittsburgh is more so just like they're just chilling, like they know playoffs. Well, when football matters, they'll be fine. And so I enjoyed my time there. Um, Contrary to like public opinion, Antonio Brown was fun to play with because like I guarded him every day, and I'll say he's the hardest worker I've ever seen in my life. Like no one prepares like Antonio Brown. You can say what you want about him off the field, how crazy he is. The dude should be a Hall of Famer. I've never seen anyone prepare like he does, and like I have all the respect in the world for him as a football player because the man prepared the absolute right way every single day.
I know what you mean. I had a chance to watch those guys work out. Roethlisberger met him over at our facility several years ago, and man, you talk about getting after it, and I see it every day. The way our guys attack the day, and hard work goes to work, and yeah, that's something the greats don't shy away from. You talked about your family and the role that's played on your entire career, but I guess this is an off the field, on the field question. I mean, it both can apply, but what's your why? What drives you? How do you make decisions? And what really pushes you to your direction? And I guess what's your why?
I'd say purpose for me is like it's something you're continuously trying to discover. I know for me, I think at a particular time, purpose for me was trying to get ounce of my athletic, ability and prowess to its peak, and everything that came with that. But now I'd say a lot of my purpose is kind of tied to my foundation and my family. My foundation meaning like what I feel like my DNA and my character was built on, which was family and my faith, and doing what I know is right in my heart, right? Like I think when I was in the league, there was so many things I was chasing, whether it was accolades or the next contract or all of these type of things, and I feel like I never fully was present in a lot of situations, and so I can specifically remember like being in Philly, having that successful year, and like not even just enjoying that and like realizing how awesome that was. I was like looking for the next contract and stuff, and then I got traded and then I was missing Philly. And so I think a thing kind of purposefully now that I do is like just be in the moment, man. Be in this moment that I'm in this season that I'm in of life, and kind of be content in it, but not complacent, right? Like right now, I'm here. I'm a dad. I'm new dad and trying to figure it out, and I'm gonna be in this place and try to be the best that I possibly can. Not wait, not trying to do something else. And so, um, I guess to answer the question, like it's ongoing for me. I think uh, purpose is really tied to uh, being in the right mind and in the right place spiritually. And for me right now, I feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm there more than I ever was when I was playing, more than I ever was when I was, on Sports Center highlights or doing all of this type of stuff. And I think it's more fulfilling when you kind of have the the no, I wouldn't say mindset, but just the spirit of like calmness and awareness to go with like those things, right? Because they can ruin everything if you're not there. And I think now I am, right? I wouldn't say that I was in my 20s or even my late 20s.
Yeah, and I mean, who could expect you to be? You've got such a unique perspective to life that most folks, just the average person listening to us, they're not going to have that. I mean, for you, you went from college and then go into an organization like the NFL, and then once that time's over, from the NFL back to trying to get back to the regular world, it's like you've lived multiple lives at that point.
Exactly. By the age of like 29 or 30, right? Which is
Yeah, you've seen it all, bro.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess seeing all of that and experiencing all of that by 30, it kind of gives you an edge in a certain way, but it also puts you at a disadvantage, right? Because you've worked so hard your whole life for one thing, but you've also experienced things, I guess, materially, physically, that people have worked for their whole life, and you get to the point when you realize, like, dog, it's all empty. None of it matters. None of it matters, right? Like,
Well, how does becoming a dad impact that mentality?
I think it gives me kind of like the freedom to allow my son to carve out his own path, right? Like I think one thing I'm gonna do, like I honestly don't want him to play football unless he's a quarterback. Like I don't want him to be a corner because I was a corner. I don't want him to play sports if he doesn't want to. He can do absolutely anything that he wants to do. And I think, just my life experience of being in that spotlight or being at the pinnacle of whatever, that sport is like, do it for the love of it, and I'll guide you to be the best you can possibly be, and have the longevity to do, and have the resources to do it. But just do what makes you happy, man. Because I actually know a lot of dudes that are playing that don't necessarily want to play, but they want to stay connected to, whether it's the lifestyle or something that they've kind of gotten used to, and like I said, it's all empty.
Well, I got to tell you, Brandon, I'm really impressed by what you're doing and how you've handled the transition from life in football into life back in the normal world. It's not a knock on other athletes, but, we all hear so often the struggles of athletes making that transition back to the quote-unquote normal life. And, you've seemed to really find a way to do that and handle that with a lot of grace, and the impact that you've are now and continuing to make in your community is just wonderful to see, man. So hats off to you. It's just really impressive.
Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, I think that was kind of always the goal, right? Like not, not to make that your identity and knowing that it's always bigger than that. So I think that's, tribute to the family and how I grew up. And so, I aspire to do the same, right? Like, cause one day it's going to end, right? But how you were along the way and what you've done and how you treated people and, the person that you are will last and sustain. And so, I don't think that I would even be associated with being or be at UGA if it was just because I was a good football player, right? Like, these relationships are connected forever because of who we are as people, and we we got like minds and like faith and want to truly see other people succeed and do the right thing by people, and so I'm grateful for that.
God, there's so much to cover, so much I still want to ask you. We'll have to have you on another time, man. But this has been a pleasure. Is there anything that you've got planned that's coming up that you'd want our listeners to know and be tracking with you?
Yeah, man. I feel like we got so much more to unpack. We probably have to do a part 2 and maybe do it sometime soon. But for me, I'd say probably me and Chris Burnett, we actually have a podcast. It's called UFR Under Further Review, and we've had a lot of guests on. So maybe y'all have to come on ours, but we had to put it on hold a little bit because life got crazy. Chris is like working for Chick-fil-A corporate, and he's like quickly become a big dog, and he had a kid, and I had a kid, and we had a lot going on. And so I think we'll pub that another time, but under further review.
Chris is a great guy. Yeah, we'll definitely push it out. I mean, we're just getting this. We're just getting the groundwork laid on this thing, but we'll definitely push it out to our many followers and listeners. We'll be sure to do that for you.
Yeah, man, this is cool. This is awesome. I can't wait to hear how y'all edit it and cook it up, because I know we touched on a lot of subjects, but definitely would love to come back, man, and in any way I can help, I'm always here to do so, and appreciate what y'all doing, brother.
Yeah, man, I tell you, it's so awesome that you took the time to sit with us today and chat with us. So appreciative. I was kind of low-key bragging to some of my buddies back home leading up to having you on today, and when I told them that Boykin was going to be on the podcast, they were definitely jealous, man. So we definitely appreciate it, man, and just thank you for your time, and also thanks for all that you're doing in the community.
Oh, man, this has been awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you soon. I'll see you at work, and appreciate you, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And BB knows this about me, but I'm a bit of a sports nerd and a little bit of a child myself with that. So thanks for letting me nerd out for the last hour with you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks, Bam. See ya.
See y'all. You have a good week.
What's up, y'all? This is Daniel with Carry the Mat Podcast. Just want to thank y'all again for joining us in our conversation with former UGA Dog and Philadelphia Eagle, Brandon Boykin. Y'all be sure to give Brandon a follow on Twitter. His handle is @BrandonBoykin2. And follow his podcast Under Further Review. They also have a Twitter page for that, and you can find it by searching @UFRPod. So we have decided that we're going to start dropping Carry the Mat podcast every other week. So like and follow us on Insta @Carry the Mat, and follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Until then, keep grinding, y'all.